Hey guys, Sunstreaker Wozza here, and welcome back to our series of unpopular opinions, where we'll be discussing some unpopular opinions between ourselves and trying to convince you if they are popular or not. Galvatronus stroke Skyrain are the best combiners in the game. And this
Not
is
me.
Freegis's. So let's go on. So grind time. Do you agree, disagree on the fence? Straight off the bat?
That's a pretty hard line saying they're the best combat or the best combiner in the game. So I'm gonna go no.
Disagree?
Because it's so cut and dry. It's black and white.
Yeah.
It's either yes or it's no, and I'm gonna say no.
Okay,
And
Tex?
I will say the same. No.
Same here. I'm going to say disagree. So take the floor, Freesius.
You've got the unpopular opinion. Way to go, buddy.
So let's see.
All right, so it's a couple of things that I look at when I look at Galvatronus and Skyrain, and it's interesting enough. We were talking about some of the same concepts that you were talking about with when we were talking about knockout and skid. So we were talking about the wall damage and the black hole ability for Galvatronus is relatively high. You can do decent damage. You're not going to do as much as, like I say, the argument is always that, well, Tripredicus, he's going to tear the base apart. But when I've been talking to a lot of my players, I said it's a couple of things. I look at that you're doing some damage, but you're also getting that damage to walls in a time period where we're going into phase 2, HQ18, eventually phase 3, HQ18. The defenses are going to be stronger. And so if you can use anything to kind of just whittle the health of those defenses down, I look at that as a bonus. In addition, his after death effect, you're getting 10 seconds for your bots as well to just not take any damage. So when you start to look at some of these players that are struggling with the healing cluster, maybe they don't have the pieces that they need in order to, use anti-heal. Maybe they don't have some of the meta asset bots. Now you're giving the option to players, which, let's be honest, for Galvatronus, most of those bots we had already, Skyrain, they had more bots than we had already. So now you've given a little bit more flexibility to say, hey, if we're going after that Micronus and Alchemist heal clusters, there's a little bit more flexibility in the play. He works well defensively as well, so I know a lot of guys have been using him on defense for the same reason, for the after death attack. But when I start to look at in testing phase 2, like there was a point in time when I used a glass gas ball from Overlord, and it's taken, and I use it primarily to take out build bots. I'm using it primarily to take out spider mines and stuff like that. As power creep takes place, we're not going to be able to do some of those things anymore. But I can comfortably say that I can do those things with Galvatronus thanks to the 10 seconds of invulnerability. I can go use a second attack into it, and I can knock down some walls in case I get into the time trap situation.
GT, what do you think?
Saying it's the best, and again, it's the black and white line there, the hard yes or no. Magnaboss Tripredicus is so good. I mean, so good. And Omega Supreme, and maybe it changes with phase 2, but anytime I go into a tracked war, it's still Omega Supreme for me. I don't even take Magnaboss. Like, I take Omega Supreme. Maybe that's a comfort thing. Like, I've used it so much and so long, I know what I can get done with Omega. I've seen them on defense more, and it did have to make you stop and think, like, why can't I take that down right now? Because they had died and they had the protection, and you gotta get used to that. So it is something new, or relatively new still. But to say he's the best, Magnaboss is so good. 5-star Omega is so good. It's hard for me to be able to comfortably just take my Skyrain into a tracked war every time when those other two are sitting on the bench. So,
Tex?
So for me, look, it's Omega Supreme. It's the biggest safety net there is. Look, it's having the post-death effect, the reflect, the lightning, as well as being the only 5-star combiner. So the mark to beat that is pretty damn high. Now, the people that have to or try to manage their ore better will be taking 4 to 5 different combiners in a war. So what's going to stand out? And for sure, like I think the first 4-star combiner I took to 25 was Skyrain, and I love it. Right, that combo of the jump and then the tornadoes just decimates bases. Right now, I think certain bases are more conductive to certain combiners as well. How you wish to use them, because Omega is just straight out power. You want to take out a massive section, have the post death effects. Skyrain has a pretty big jump area as well, and I think I said, what do you want? Do you want reflect post death, or do you want that little bit of invincibility? So I think the synergy of which combiner suits your bots also has a huge part in it. So what suits your team, and do you coin a war? Because then obviously you're only using 10 or 1 combiner, and that's all you kind of use, right? I love using Skyrain and Magnaboss in Zen. Just destroys like zone 15, right? It's just so much fun. But obviously war is a different story, harder effects, so forth. So look, it's going to be pretty hard for me not to take Overlord as a combiner into war, because I coin, and for me it's just a super safety net. I play fast. That reflect is huge for me, in the way I play. So for me, no, I still disagree that Skyrain is next, right? Skyrain is my second best combiner, followed by Magna. Obviously, Computron stays on defense.
Yeah, I'm in a similar stance that there's only 3 combiners that I've really leveled, and that is Omega, Skyrain, Magnaboss. I've also started leveling Volcanicus a bit, because you can do a bit of Zen farming, things like that, but they're the main 3. So, if the argument or the discussion was, is he usable in primary hard mode? Yeah, in a heartbeat, yeah, he is. Is he better than Omega and Magnaboss? No. Is he better on defense than Computron? I don't think so. So, if we talk about different aspects, defense, I still think he's second. I'd put him second behind Computron. On attack, I'd put him third behind Magnaboss first, Omega second, simply because Magnaboss is a 4-star and he's competing with, it's very close between the 2, but I still put him third. So I just don't think he's the best. So let's go around. Grind time. Does it convince you otherwise, or
Not the best. No.
no? Still no. Where would you place him? Where would you place Skyrain?
To me, it's Omega, Magna, and Skyrain as the top 3, and 2 and 3 can swap places depending, and sometimes even 1 and 2 maybe. Again, if I'm going into, I'm thinking about the tracked war. If I'm going into a tracked war where my points matter, I'm taking Omega. I'm not even thinking about it. I'm taking Omega. And I'm like Tex, I'm a coiner, so I'm going to go in, I'm going to try to do the whole war with 1 charge of my... Now, if Space Ape would freaking listen to me and we could charge multiple combiners and pick 1 per base, and then that way you could go in and say, oh, there's a big cluster. I'm going to take Magnaboss this battle. And instead of having a timer, you've got a number of uses for him. That's a whole different discussion. No, I don't think Skyrain is the best combiner in the game. I'll leave it at that.
And Tex, so where would you place them 3? Well, I presume you think them to be the best, so...
So
Skyrain.
Skyrain's second. I think there's one thing also to take notice, right? Any player that's that joined after 5-star Omega event, they have a lot of choices to make to chase the 5-star component versus getting better. If you don't have the 5-star Omega, I would possibly put Skyrain above, right? Because it's on a level pairing of 4-star.
With Magnaboss needing 3 bots, though?
Some people still don't have those bots. You know? That's the game, what do they call the RNG about it? Maybe only 3 bots, but some people are still chasing 4-star bots for a 3-star, a 3-bot combiner. So look, it's no. Omega, Skyrain, Magnaboss for me.
And yeah, sorry, Freeze. Yeah, I would go. I would put Magnaboss top, Omega second, Skyrain third. I mean, we all agree that Skyrain's up there, but I don't think we agree that he's actually the best. So yeah.